This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
More coronavirus cases reported across Africa. Only 6 countries on the continent don't have any patients. That's after Sierra Leone confirmed its first case. And as efforts to contain the virus take center stage, the continent's major cities remain deserted and businesses shut as national lockdowns begin. Globally, attention still firmly on epicenters in Europe and North America, but the World Health Organization warns countries in Asia and the Pacific to remain vigilant. Hello and a warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up this hour. In business, South Africa's rand plunges to an all-time low after Moody's downgrades the country's investment rating to junk. And in sports, the IOC sets new dates for a rescheduled Tokyo Olympic Games. Experts have warned that Africa is highly vulnerable to COVID-19, largely due to the weak state of health systems across the continent. While the number of infections is still comparatively low, testing has been limited. 48 nations have reported infections with over 5,000 confirmed cases. Dozens of nations in the region have already imposed a range of restrictions on movement. Nigerians have been ordered to seize all movements in major cities, while Zimbabwe is currently under a 3-week lockdown. In Kenya, officials have confirmed cases of community transmission of the virus, and police in South Sudan, one of a few nations yet to confirm a case, have started enforcing strict new rules, such as limiting passengers in public transport. CGTN's Patrick Oyet has more.
South Sudan's government says it is taking measures to try and prevent the spread of the coronavirus. It has ordered all businesses that are not selling food items to be closed. Banks and other financial institutions are working for a half a day. Businesses that remain open have to install hand washing points or provide hand sanitizers. South Sudan's government has also ordered motorcycle taxi operators not to carry passengers. The country's COVID-19 high-level task force headed by President Salva Kiir is closing land borders. South Sudanese who want to return to their country by road have to follow certain procedures.
The high-level task force directed the Ministry of Health to step out their efforts to establish more crossing points around the country so that all entrants can be checked, but also as they arrive through those crossings, they will have to be quarantined for 14 days.
However, there are those who think the government could do much more. The formation of South Sudan's new unity government is not yet complete. Some members of the civil society say there is a vacuum in implementing measures to prevent the spread of the coronavirus at the local government level.
When we are starting to fight COVID-19, the government should now take it upon itself and as a priority, to install all governors in all the 10 states of this country, because you need to have a functioning systems, for you to be able to manage the crisis.
The measures being taken by South Sudan's government come at a time when the United Nations is warning that more than half the population of South Sudan would face acute food shortage by next month. South Sudan has one of the most underdeveloped health sectors in the world. Years of civil war destroyed the few health structures that existed. The country has just started rebuilding the health care system. The government says it fears that if COVID-19 cases are found in the country, they could become extremely difficult to manage. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Well, of course, South Sudan, one of 6 countries in Africa that have yet to report a case of the coronavirus. This after Sierra Leone reported its first infection today. that of a 37-year-old man who had traveled from France earlier in this month. Also, Tanzania recorded its first death. Now, moving to Zimbabwe, most streets in the country's major cities have been deserted and businesses shut as a 21-day national lockdown began on Monday. President Emmerson Mnangagwa ordered the lockdown to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
There was a last-minute rush for essential supplies and efforts to make final sales by informal business people ahead of a 21-day lockdown. Uncharted territory for Zimbabweans, some of whom are not sure how they'll get by.
I have no choice but to obey the directive because we don't want the disease to spread, but I don't know if we'll have enough to feed my family because I survive on what I make each day.
It's not just vendors who are affected. All non-essential businesses, including private commuter transport, will also be grounded.
Unlike salaried employees, we don't have any savings. We live from hand to mouth. So the 21-day shutdown is too long for us.
The situation for many informal businesses here is exacerbated by an ongoing economic crisis that's left some fearful that being forced to stop operating for 21 days may be the final push that tips them over the edge.
We are in hyperinflation. Businesses are surviving from month to month. All that has not been considered, and in fact government has not even put in place anything at all to cushion businesses or to cushion employees. Never mind the majority of the people who are in the informal sector. So this lockdown, I think, was not a very well thought through strategy, in my opinion. It's going to have severe implications if it works at all.
There have been calls for the government to step in to protect everyone, beyond business people who are the most vulnerable.
The government should supply food to especially in the high-density areas, just like they do in rural food for work schemes, because if I can't drive my taxi for the next 21 days, it means my family and extended family in the village will go hungry.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa is yet to provide details of the support his government has pledged for those who will be socially affected by COVID-19. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Now, neighboring South Africa, senior residents in the township of Soweto have been collecting their social grants. They've been doing so despite being more at risk of becoming severely ill from the coronavirus. But for many, standing in long queues is the only way to receive their grants.
We are scared of being sick, but there is nothing we can do. What are we going to eat? We are here to get paid so that we can buy food.
We are scared of falling ill. As you can see, most of us are the elderly. We are covering our mouths with masks because we don't know how this will end.
Uganda has banned the use of private vehicles and put in place a dusk-to-dawn curfew as the country steps up measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The country had earlier closed its borders, stopped international flights, as well as all forms of social gatherings as cases in the country exceed 30. Isabel Nakiria has more.
Ugandans are adhering to the ban on private vehicles. President Yoweri Museveni says the measure will restrict the movement of people. Essential workers like medical practitioners, bankers, factory employees, security and fueling station workers will carry on with operations. But getting to work has been tiresome for many who live outside the capital.
Much as it's inconveniencing, but health-wise it has made us walk. We rarely walk in this country, but this time people are walking. I can see people with bags and so on trying their best to reach town.
Most parts of Kampala remain quiet and deserted. Food markets, though, are still open and the sellers are encouraged to keep a safe distance from each other. Cargo trucks have also been allowed to stay on the road. The new measures will last a fortnight, but there is uncertainty on whether the government will extend the ban on private vehicles. But authorities say the measures are necessary to keep the citizens safe from the coronavirus. For now, Ugandans have to deal with interruptions to their daily schedules.
Now for me, I was supposed to go to the bank and withdraw, but the bank is closed and I don't have much money, but I'm fine. Sometimes you have to let the nature take care of you.
The government says many people were breaking early restrictions on social gatherings, but basic hygiene measures are generally being followed.
Right now, if you see my bottle here, this is not soda. I'm working with my sanitizer inside. It's not soda. For me, if I'm going outside, I have to wash my hands.
The country is still monitoring over 800 cases of COVID-19 who are still under institutional quarantine. The new guidelines that take immediate effect are aimed at keeping that number as low as possible. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN Kampala, Uganda.
And let's head north to Egypt now, where massive efforts are underway to disinfect all public places in the capital Cairo, as well as other major cities. Fears of a big COVID-19 outbreak have forced Egypt into a partial curfew. Here's CGTN's Adel Al-Mahri with more.
For about 2 weeks, the Egyptian government has been launching major disinfection campaigns. All students and nearly half of Egypt's workforce are now staying at home. Cairo is using that drop in human traffic to disinfect all public places.
Government offices and buildings are now disinfected at least twice a week. We have also cut down the number of employees. We've made everyone who has chronic disease, pregnant women, or those with children stay at home. The rest of the workforce are present daily due to the emergency state we are in.
The Egyptian Agriculture Ministry's prevention departments are leading the sterilization efforts in most civilian locations. Fearing further widespread or possible mutations for COVID-19 among domestic animals, they inspect breeding farms. They have also increased the number of disinfection rounds at Egypt's and the region's biggest slaughterhouse, which is now getting disinfected twice every day.
On a daily basis, thousands of animals and thousands of citizens walk in this place. Butchers, truck drivers or residents come here to trade. We are sanitizing this place routinely, but this session is designed for the coronavirus.
The Egyptian Interior Ministry too is joining these sterilization efforts. It has shut down its public services offices, which issues personal identification documents, and has begun cleansing them. While the armed forces has released videos of bigger operations that has targeted Cairo University and areas near military bases.
Egypt is on a partial lockdown, fearing wider spread of COVID-19. With most public places shut, Cairo is disinfecting itself to keep those who are still going to work safe and prepare the rest of the country for a possible return to a normal life, hopefully sooner than later. Adel Al-Mahri, CGTN, Cairo.
Well, let's turn to our international coverage now of the coronavirus pandemic, and we start in China. The country is stepping up its focus on asymptomatic cases of the virus. Health authorities revealed that more than 1,500 people are under observation after testing positive for the coronavirus, but not showing any symptoms. More than 200 arrived from overseas. This is the first official account of asymptomatic cases. Authorities also announced they will start reporting the number of these cases daily. After 14 days of quarantine, these patients can only be released if they test negative twice. Well, France, Germany and the United Kingdom have shipped medical goods to Iran under a special scheme to bypass the U.S. blockade of the country. It is the first transaction conducted under a trade mechanism set up to barter humanitarian goods and food after the U.S. violated the 2015 nuclear deal and reimposed sweeping sanctions. The German Foreign Ministry says the medical goods are now in Iran. It says the Instex trade mechanism and its Iranian counterpart will now work on more transactions and on enhancing the system. Meanwhile, a cruise ship carrying multiple passengers with the COVID-19 virus has passed through the Panama Canal. It is now sailing towards southeast Florida in the United States. The vessel, operated by Holland American Line, received special humanitarian authorization from the Panama government 4 passengers have died on the ship, 2 of whom tested positive for COVID-19. Over 1,200 guests and nearly 600 crew are on board the MS Zandam. Disembarking on Florida's port could prove challenging, however. The state's governor has called this a big problem and says he does not want to see people, quote, dumped in his state. Well, as attention shifts to epicenters in Europe and North America, the World Health Organization has warned countries in Asia and the Pacific to remain vigilant.
The epidemic is far from over in Asia and the Pacific. This is going to be a long-term battle, and we cannot let down our guard. We need every country to keep responding according to their local situation. We recognize that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to preparing for and responding to an emergency like this. But we have found common tactics in these countries. But we need to be clear that even with all of these measures, the risk will not go away as long as the pandemic continues.
Now, a group of Chinese health experts has arrived in the UK to help the country deal with the coronavirus. The team arrived at the weekend, taking medical supplies with them. CGTN's Naveed Jabakal reports.
Touching down in London with much-needed supplies. This is the first official medical team from China sent to the UK to help Britain's fight against COVID-19.
We are supporting the UK with the critical supplies they requested, including ventilators, 10,000 testing kits, 500 goggles, 10,000 protective suits and 100,000 masks.
Because of the lockdown, there is a limit to how much this team from China can physically do on the ground here in the UK. But this team of 15, which includes doctors and nurses, is hoping to pass on some of the lessons they've learnt fighting COVID-19 recently in the eastern Chinese province of Shandong. They'll be based here in London for their 10-day visit, but will be speaking to health experts across the UK.
On Monday, the team held a meeting with one of the UK's deputy chief medical officers. This is the coronavirus era, of course, so it was a video conference rather than face-to-face. But it was a chance for British officials to ask some of the questions that could help them in the coming weeks.
The way that you have dealt with the outbreak, and we really want to learn as much as we can from you about how these patients present, how you've managed to manage them, what has worked for you, what has not worked for you.
China's top diplomat in the UK says this global pandemic could bring the two sides closer together.
China and UK are countries of global influence. We are both permanent members of UN Security Council, important members of G20. And I think both China and UK can take the lead to promote international collaboration.
The visit is a sign of the growing crisis facing the UK. More than 1,200 people have now died from the coronavirus in the country, with officials warning the worst is yet to come. Chinese businesses and students in the UK will also be meeting with the delegation in a bid to help China's nationals stay safe during the pandemic. And the one piece of advice that these experts would pass on?
I believe we should declare a war on the coronavirus without delay. If I were to summarize our expertise in China, solidarity would be the most important thing. Everyone in society needs to play their part.
A warning from experience against a virus that knows no borders. Naweed Jabakil, CGTN, London.
Still ahead on Africa Live. Somali forces kill nearly 150 Al-Shabaab militants.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca. Among the crowds in Cairo,
come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
We start in Somalia now, where the army says it has killed more than 100 gunmen in efforts to liberate a strategic town crucial to Al-Shabaab's operations. CGTN's Abdulaziz Bilo has more from Mogadishu.
This army bulldozer is clearing a road previously used by Al-Shabaab to launch guerrilla attacks on government forces in the lower Shabelle region. The Somali army, backed by its allies, recently captured the agricultural town of Janale, 90 kilometers southwest of Mogadishu from Al-Shabaab, for the first time in years. This is the man leading the operation to liberate Lower Shabelle from Al-Shabaab's control. The region is widely considered as the epicenter of the decades-long insurgency.
We have inflicted heavy losses to the enemy, including deaths and injuries. We have captured weapons and several militant commanders who were wanted by the government. We are now in full control of Janale. Security is improving. We call upon all displaced persons to return, including farmers, to continue with the task of building the nation.
The army puts the death toll at 142. The months-long offensive has seen the army capture strategic towns and villages, denying the group revenue critical to sustaining its operations. Dozens of African Union troops were killed here 5 years ago after militants stormed an army base belonging to a Ugandan contingent of the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM. At this public gathering, the local administration met the community, mostly farmers, and urged them to cooperate with security forces in ensuring security is restored.
For the next 2 weeks, public transport will not be allowed. We have confiscated all motorbikes to prevent the militants from planting landmines within the town. We will lift the ban in the coming days after we secure the town. I call on you all to comply with the rules.
Washington has been instrumental in recent army successes, with close to 30 aerial strikes on militant targets in the region. US-trained troops known as Danab have also managed to take control of strategic bridges from where militants launched deadly car bomb attacks in Mogadishu in the past. Experts say increasing pressure on the militant group is the only solution to achieving a great success on the battlefield. Army commanders say that the downfall of Janale is a clear example of Somalia's readiness to take over security responsibility from the African Union force AMISOM. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
To Nigeria now, where there are an estimated 13 million children aged between 5 to 14 years old who are out of school. Many of them are in the north of the country. Education deprivation in northern Nigeria is driven by various factors, including economic barriers, social cultural norms and practices that discourage formal education, especially for girls. But one youth group is now pushing to change that. Here's Deji Badmus with that story.
2001. The school in insurgency-hit northeast Borno State is the exception rather than the norm in the entire northern Nigeria. The state government renovated the school after it was attacked and destroyed by Boko Haram some years back. It's now up and running. But while the attendance here might appear somewhat encouraging, it actually masks the bigger education challenge in northern Nigeria. Millions of children in this part of the country are out of school. They make up around 69% of the country's out-of-school children, which is put at 13 million.
The state of education in North is very worrisome because more especially that of girls' child education. Look at the situation of girls' child education. There are some restrictions. The girls were not able to attend schools for some cultural beliefs. The girls are not being able to go to school for some fear.
Rather than just sit down and complain, Mohammed is now galvanizing all the young people to work to change the situation. Their group, #GiveNorthEducation, has been taking their education campaign to parents and communities to convince them to send their children to school. In this community, which has among the highest rate of out-of-school children in the northwest Kano state, they're working with the local leader in the area to address the problem. Luckily for them, the community leader is passionate about formal education and is more than supportive of their initiative.
We are calling on parents and children to take this education seriously because there are children who usually wouldn't go to school and will deceive other kids from going. Then these kids return back home lying that they have actually gone to school. To the teachers also, they should ensure that if 50 kids are under their care every day, they should be able to give account for each kid. If you notice a kid that hasn't been around for 2 or 3 days, then he should take it up and make inquiries to know the reasons why the kids have not been around. If this is done, I believe things will be a lot better.
We are calling for the community leaders, the elders, rulers, youths, women and children to join forces with us in disarming the blockchain of illiteracy in northern Nigeria. What we are doing particularly is to flush out illiteracy from northern Nigeria, and we are recording a huge success on this.
Despite the successes the group is recording, there's still a lot to be done to turn around the situation of out-of-school children in Nigeria's north. Many parents here prefer sending their children to Arabic schools, popularly known as Al-Majiri, but the system has since become totally dysfunctional, turning millions of children into street beggars.
That Al-Majiri system is a system that we think if we didn't call for its abolishment, then we need to call for its restructure. We need to call all stakeholders, provide a public-private partnership, go for everywhere and seek for how this education is going to be standardized.
Mohammed and his group are taking up a very big task, a task to change deep-rooted traditional and religious beliefs. But to know that by doing nothing, their part of the country would continue to lag behind in education, and that could have more costly consequences for their region in the future.
And we are not begging for any person to come and give us money. We are not here for money. We are here for materials. If you can donate one book, come to us.
Deji Badmos, CGTN, Kano, Nigeria.
And coming up in your business news up next. South Africa's rand plunges to an all-time low after Moody's downgrades the country's investment rating to junk. And the United States scrutinizing Côte d'Ivoire's cocoa industry over allegations of child labor.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues for taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
In your business news, the South African rand has plummeted to an all-time low, slipping just below 18 rand to the dollar. That's after ratings firm Moody's cut the country's investment credit rating to junk on Friday. This heaps more pain on a country already in recession. Moody's is the last of the big three agencies to downgrade Africa's most industrialized economy. It had left South Africa on the brink of junk in November when it revised its outlook to negative. But in February, a national budget showed a worsening fiscal picture. Output is also now set to be dented as workers have been told to stay at home for 21 days to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Côte d'Ivoire's cocoa industry is facing fresh scrutiny over child labor claims from one of its most important export markets, the United States. U.S. customs authorities have asked cocoa traders in Côte d'Ivoire to report where and when they ever encounter child labor in their supply chains in the world's top cocoa producer. This follows increased pressure in the United States after two senators last July asked the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol to block the import of Ivorian cocoa produced with forced labor. The U.S. bought around $600 million worth of cocoa beans and paste last year. That's around 15% of Côte d'Ivoire's cocoa exports. A partial blockage could increase the cost of chocolate and have a crippling effect on Ivorian exports. Right, turning to Somalia now, authorities have announced a ban on local and international flights to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Here's more from CGTN's Abdulaziz Bilo.
A contractor with the United Nations mission in Somalia is the latest person to test positive for coronavirus. The country now has 3 laboratory-confirmed positive cases of COVID-19. Somalia has now suspended all local flights as a health measure to limit the potential spread of the virus. The move is expected to affect hundreds of passengers and create huge losses to both airline and cargo companies.
We have had an important discussion with the House Committees on Social Affairs. One of the recommendations we have given is a complete halt to international and local flights to avoid the spread of coronavirus. Securing our border is essential in containing this threat.
Insecurity and poor infrastructure in most parts of the country means people rely on air transport as the safest means of movement. All 3 positive cases have been confirmed in Mogadishu. The latest victim, a foreigner, is said to have transited in COVID-19 hotspots. The country's president, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, is now calling on increased awareness to educate the public on dangers of the global pandemic.
We have confirmation of 3 cases in Somalia so far. We pray for all the 3 patients to recover from the disease. It's important to note that prevention is better than cure. Hygiene and social distancing is important to ensure the virus doesn't spread.
Mogadishu has 1 functioning quarantine facility but lacks vital equipment. Regional health officials are in the country's capital to strategize on ways to boost preparedness. A recent aid shipment from China is also expected to go a long way in boosting the safety of medical personnel who previously lacked vital safety equipment to handle suspected cases. Somalia is one of the least affected countries compared to its neighbors that have a higher number, including 1 death recorded so far in Kenya. And with a weak health system, experts call for increased awareness in the country to ensure that the virus doesn't spread. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Now to Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan authorities have closed the city's largest market for a cleanup to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. Hygiene workers have been disinfecting the Adjame market. The managers say the shutdown was necessary to potentially save lives because of the number of people who work in the market or buy produce there every day and the risk that they can spread the virus easily. Traders with no way to sell their goods have been forced to set up outside the premises to trade their remaining produce.
The mayor gave us the order to move the women vendors because of the coronavirus. Because when it starts spreading within the population, it is dangerous. So that's why the mayor decided to move all the women from the market.
We are trying to figure things out because we have produce in stock. So that's why, because they close now, we have to sell outside the market in order to manage before we don't have any more produce. Otherwise, we understand the president's message. We are ready to stay at home. We are happy and proud of the confinement decision.
It's a threat that we can't see. It's invisible. You know there are always a lot of people in the market, and if 2 or 3 or 4 people are infected, everyone else will be. You see what it can do, huge damage. We don't want it to be that way. We decided quickly to take measures. We closed and we are washing the market.
While staying in Cote d'Ivoire, let's take a look at some other measures being implemented to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Now, Cote d'Ivoire is one of the number of African countries that have declared a state of emergency. Among the measures introduced is a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. local time. In the capital, Abidjan, businesses have adjusted to the measures. More businesses are making their employees work from home.
Usually, I meet and interact with clients a lot, but this is practically no longer possible now because I work at home with my phone and computer via the internet. It is not easy. Some customers place orders and cancel them afterwards because they are afraid of being contaminated during delivery.
We decided at Mediafrex Logistics to release all our employees because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Here in the Abidjan office, we have 10 employees who for the past few days have each worked at his home. We have offices in other West African countries such as Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Togo and Guinea-Conakry. And in all of these countries too, we have asked our employees to work from their homes.
Well, the coronavirus pandemic has disrupted many businesses across the Democratic Republic of Congo, especially those that involve people working in close contact with each other, like barbershops and salons. Many of them in the DRC capital, Kinshasa, have been especially hard hit by the outbreak. Here's more from CGTN's Chris Ochamringa.
An unusually deserted street in Kinshasa. The Magasin neighborhood always bustles with activity, but the fear of catching COVID-19 has kept people away. The area has a multitude of barbershops and hair salons. Many of them didn't open. The few that did say business has been very slow.
The outbreak of the coronavirus has really affected our revenue. Our job requires us to get close to people to cut their hair, but many of them fear to approach us because of the advice about social distancing.
Some of the customers who chose to get a haircut were very cautious about where they got it done.
The managers of this place have a good sense of hygiene. The barbers use disinfectants and now wear masks to prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
I had an haircut, but I need to keep my mask on because of, some people respect the 1 meter distance between people, but there is some situation you have to see the reality. When you get in the bus or the public transportation, it's really hard to keep this, 1 meter distance.
Many young people in Kinshasa earn a living as barbers and hairdressers. The fight against COVID-19 has had a negative impact on their livelihood. Many Congolese do not only visit barbershops for grooming, but also to get information about things happening in their country. But that no longer happens with the outbreak of the coronavirus. The government postponed a 3-week lockdown aimed at limiting the spread of COVID-19 in Kinshasa, which had been due to start on Saturday. Some people have chosen to stay home voluntarily following a rise in confirmed cases. Barbers at this salon only hope the coronavirus outbreak will be contained sooner rather than later. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
We bring you some breaking news now coming out of Ethiopia. The country's electoral commission says it will delay national elections slated for August due to the coronavirus pandemic. In a statement, the board said it will announce a new timeline once the virus has been contained. Elections were seen as a key test for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his reform agenda in a country once considered as repressive. Now turning to news in China, the country's restaurant and catering sector is witnessing a gradual recovery as the coronavirus pandemic begins to recede in the country. However, difficulties still lie ahead for the sector. Feng Yile visited several restaurants in Shenyang to learn about the measures they've employed to minimize the impact of the pandemic.
After the ongoing coronavirus outbreak had ruined the annual Spring Festival peak season for the catering sector, local dining places have reopened in Shenyang. But it's not yet time to celebrate for most of these businesses, including Xibei, a leading Chinese chain restaurant.
Since we reopened on March 20th, our daily passenger flow is around 180 and daily turnover is less than 30,000 yuan. I think it takes time to see an increase in consumption.
Fewer customers mean less revenue, but expenses still have to be paid, including rental, staffing and raw materials. Its branches across the country have also tried to tide over the difficulties by adopting new measures.
We provide 5 new set menu group meals for businesses. With more choices in our online shop and brand promotions, we are also accepting more online orders from individual customers.
In these tough times, small and medium-sized enterprises can appear to be even more vulnerable. These neighborhood restaurants serving lunchboxes and fast food rely almost entirely on takeouts and deliveries since the start of the outbreak. Some have to cut costs, or worse, closed down temporarily.
We used to need about 6 or 7 employees. Now we only have 3. By cutting down on that, given the declining orders, we are able to guarantee other things. I think what we should not sacrifice now is the safety and quality of our food.
Some believe that an industry reshuffle will soon take place.
This small food court shows how the catering industry struggles through these hard times. While it's finally resuming normal operations after nearly 2 months, 5 out of the 18 food stores here remain closed, 2 of which have lost their leases.
Property owners are actively taking steps to find new merchants, which may turn out to be an opportunity for newcomers.
In the past, even if you gave us a certain amount of money, you wouldn't be able to enter the food court. But right now, we offer promotions and advertising to attract new merchants, as well as lower the interest threshold.
Businesses are also looking forward to more supportive policies that can tide them over, such as spending incentives and tax breaks. While many industry insiders see the post-outbreak period as a real challenge for the industry, they also see it as the darkness before the arrival of dawn. Feng Yilei, CGTN, Shenyang.
Well, let's take a short break. Here's what's still ahead on the program. Are you staying home due to coronavirus restrictions? We'll tell you how you can keep physically fit.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Fitness instructors in South Africa are taking their classes online. Outdoor activities in the country have been banned, and movement is limited to shopping for food or medical supplies or the collection of grants. And that has prompted fitness instructors to create virtual training studios. CGTN's Julie Shire reports.
A 21-day lockdown is mentally and physically grueling. Professional trainer Zakira Kalek is passionate about fitness. She's had to take the virtual route to keep her clients in top shape.
What is so important about spreading this message of keeping fit and also sane?
I think we are all very anxious and we all stressed, whether it is financially, career-wise, what's going to happen with the economy when we come out of this. And I think exercise is a tool that we can use to, just focus on other things other than what's going to happen in the next few days.
Sports scientist and fitness coach Jatin Bana runs Strength Lab in Johannesburg. It is usually buzzing with children and endurance athletes. The COVID-19 has forced him to also give classes online.
There was a panic in the runners community in terms of what are we going to do, how are we going to do it. So it just came to mind that I said, okay, I'll do some strength and conditioning sessions. And what I'll do is I'll do them online. I use the Zoom online platform. It's a great platform. And I think it just helps to keep everybody in routine, in check.
It's a break from mundane home life during the next few weeks. A towel, a bottle of water, stable internet access, and an hour is all that is needed. And fitness addicts can log in from anywhere.
It's been very good for me. It has allowed me to be more confident within my Ironman training, and I can see the benefit now with my children. They're loving training at home.
I like about having these classes is that during this lockdown we actually get to do some exercises instead of just sitting at home and doing nothing.
Today's class was
It was fun and it was exciting. I say challenging because there were exercises that were quite tough.
These platforms won't reach many who don't have access to the internet, but it will change how businesses operate in the future. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And let's go to the Senegalese capital, Dakar, where leading graffiti artists are helping to raise awareness about the coronavirus. A new set of murals has been appearing all across the city. It's the work of a group of artists known as the RBS Crew. The group believes that graffiti can help reach a large part of the population that is illiterate. Senegal has one of the highest levels of coronavirus infections in West Africa, and experts say a larger outbreak could strain already stretched health resources. And here's what's coming up in your sports news. The IOC sets new dates for a rescheduled Tokyo Olympic Games.
For a look at some economic data out of the country. The country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
Perina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives.
Reporting from Nairobi's city center.
News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference.